didn't know what the real story was behind the name. So it's interesting.
Welcome to the stage, Hollywood Principals. Ooh.
Yeah.
You were gonna ask something.
Just that's my nightmare, dude. These guys are teachers from Los Angeles. Wow, no,
I just like letting them run.
Yeah, we'll just let them ride. The tallest 6'2" and 6'2" DJs I've ever met. So
that's how
just
I
like
planned
immediately
it.
starting with the triggering.
That's definitely that's not where I wanted to start. Let's start with the cheers. I was just kidding about
too
that.
fucking tall.
Cheers.
We drink.
Cheers.
Do I have to?
Cheers.
All right.
Ooh.
All right, that's fun.
All right, it's a wrap. Good one, guys.
Yeah, that was good. Second time's a charm.
Ooh, it's an IPA.
This is a Coors Light.
So
Beer of champions.
I think it would make the most sense to start with a little background of how we all know each other. Because I believe that it'll make for more, it's all more cohesive, right? So if we just jump into this thing, no one's going to they'll be like, these guys know each other forever.
I've never met you guys in my life.
We're just a podcast on your schedule.
Yeah. I told you, I have 30 more minutes left.
Yeah, we flew in. We got to fly out to play a show in Denver.
You guys are just booked up, man. Busy guys.
Yeah. We have so many shows coming up. It's great. So many shows.
So how did you guys originally meet? Because that is the origin of the story of how I met you guys.
I think it's because I was running like a post-college frat house over in PB, and I put out an ads on Craigslist to get some people to come move in. And I think it was you, Brad, who showed up.
That's where I come in.
Yeah.
I moved. I answered. I was living with Tim.
Mm-hmm.
So Tim and I lived together in Mission Beach. I saw an ad on Craigslist. I said it was like a bunch of guys living together in a house looking for
Super
a cool
Nothing weird.
Like guy, like it, described it all to move in. It was like, this mansion looking view over the ocean. And I was like, this looks incredible. I don't know. I don't really understand it, but I'm going to go. I'm going to go check out this house. It's just like looking at rentals. And I go in, and then I got a call back after my first
after your audition,
after my first
call back,
and it was like, hey,
that was great.
The guys thought you were pretty cool, and they'd like to invite you back for a second time to do like a hangout session or something along those lines. Wasn't it like or like have a beer or something like those lines?
It was totally
I don't
ridiculous.
know if you were even there for that. I think that John was leading the show on that.
Is this when Elliott was just at the zoo every weekend?
And so
still happens.
So I went back. It wasn't just me. It was like a few guys also got like a call. So I'm
it
like
was a mixer.
It was like the second level, and they're like, okay, we're gonna like sit in a room and like get to know you guys better and do some question and answer type stuff.
Oh my God.
I went back. I told Tim, I was like, I think I got the part.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I'm going to get a bid.
I remember you describing this to me, and you're like, yeah, man, it's like 6 guys living in a 4-bedroom house up in La Jolla. Sick views though. And I'm like, all right, man, I guess it sounds okay.
It was pretty great, but like the situation I took over was like, I had moved into a house with some old high school friends of mine. They all moved out, and I had never met the landlord. There are no keys to the house. Don't really know anything about this. One of the old people who lived there had built a wall in the master bedroom to turn this 5-bedroom house into a 6-bedroom house.
Which these two eventually shared.
Yes, yeah. Oh my God. But it was pretty chaotic. And
that was tough sharing with Brad because I had the bathroom on my side and Brad had the balcony.
Yeah.
So when I wanted to go on the balcony, I'd go to his side. When he wanted to go to the bathroom, he'd come on my side. And it was
a master bedroom, and then somebody had split it just like with wood.
Yeah,
they just like put up a piece of wood. They're like, hey, here you go.
Yeah, no insulation.
So, I didn't realize this till right now, but we've always talked about how Rob is who introduced us. But technically speaking, Brad's the catalyst. Because the only reason I was in that house that day was because I was with Lucas for the Broken Stems.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah,
I did not know
Mike. So
God,
in the house,
that's
because I moved in. I was in Broken Stems at that time. So then Jesse, eventually lead singer of Broken Stems, moved in there. That was where we practiced in the garage. And then Lucas, who did our first album,
lived with me.
You lived with you, and then you mixed it or mastered it.
I mixed
it. Both.
I mixed.
Both.
I don't know. Yeah.
Something like that. And then
10 years later, you're like, I did not master that.
And I remember
listen to it and then I'll answer you later.
The first time I met you, because then you were like, oh yeah, I do music. You meet a lot of people that it's like, oh, I like DJ or I produce some music, and you threw on some of your shit. I was like, oh, okay. Like this is like, how do you even do that? Because you meet so many people that say they make music and then they throw on some weird stuff. What'd you guys just do?
Touched feet.
Yeah, we're just playing footsie over here. That's cool.
Cute.
Well, I remember, so you move in, and then it actually turns out to be a pretty cool house, right? I mean, the guys are pretty cool. There was always kind of like one odd man out on it, right?
Who was the odd man out, Tim?
Well, when I moved in, it was me, because I was the only one responsible with a real job and everything. But I mean, like, there was John who organized the house, and then there was...
We all had jobs, man.
Yeah.
So then there was the dude.
Did Rob have a job at that point?
I think so.
Rob was...
He moved out, like he moved to...
There was a lot of music when
Nashville soon after.
I moved in, there was a couple music... Like slowly just kept being more musicians were in that house.
And then Tim.
So then it was a lot of collaboration. And then it was Tim listening to all of it.
Which, to be fair, that's a tough spot to be in. Everyone's like, what do you think of this song? You're like,
that's always tough to be Tim.
And then we all moved across the little canyon from the White House to the Red House. When did you guys start making your first songs?
Whiplash.
That was definitely during that time period.
2012, 2013.
Yeah.
Do you guys, I don't even know this. Did you like just walk down the hall and you're like, check this out? Or were you like, hey, let's do a thing?
This is where the Rob part
This is actually from Rob. Rob had, I don't know what you guys were working on at the time. It was probably one of those records. But
I wasn't working on anything with him at the time. Like, I was there because Lucas was doing pre-prod for their album. And while he was talking to them out on the patio, Rob and I were drinking cupcake vodka.
Natural
cupcake vodka.
That's how it always starts.
Yeah. And
every band is formed that way. It's weird.
I can't think of a story that didn't start with cupcake vodka, honestly.
There was.
I mean, like, it's the greatest vodka there is.
Shout
out.
You
like cupcakes.
Shout out cupcake vodka. There you go.
Just like cross-pollinating the podcast.
Are we doing a blend crossover episode here? Is that what's happening?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Blend.
I don't know.
Did my team talk to your team about this, or
licensing didn't come through on this one. So how did it all happen? So how did you guys link up? So you're on the patio with Lucas.
No, Lucas is on the patio working on a different album. So I'm just hanging out, and I met Rob in the kitchen. And as we're drinking bonding over cupcake vodka, he mentions he wants to do an album. So like I showed him some of my stuff, and then I guess, that's kind of where that conversation ended. And then he was going to come meet up with me, and we were going to talk about his album at a later date. And somewhere in between then is when he showed you who he was going to, me.
Honestly, no. I just heard that you were good at music and you guys were going to go work on stuff downtown. And I just was like, all right, I'm tagging along. And I jumped in.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember there was a lot of, I don't want to say like buzz is the right word, but I remember like hearing your name a bunch, being in a house full of musicians. Your name was brought up a lot of like, Mike Alt can do. It was never Mike. It was Mike Alt. Mike Alt can do this. Mike, like that kind of thing.
Single syllables.
So by the time I met you,
I think especially at that time though, like when we were all just kind of starting with this sort, like you have actual sound engineering background, and that was very, very rare at that time because everybody's like, oh look, like I understand, maybe chords or harmony, whatever, but you put them in front of a computer and you try to make some music. Nobody knows how to do it. You're like, oh, this sounds great. You play in your car and it just sounds terrible. So I think. You're like a drummer back in the day for anybody who's trying to do electronic music. Like, oh, this guy knows how to do it. And every project was looking for somebody to really elevate it.
Yeah, I mean, you had solid skills and still do.
Yeah.
And so you guys link up to do Whiplash, and that
we did that for a competition.
Did we? We've done a lot of competitions. I don't even know anymore.
It was an original competition for a show to play a show at Voyeur.
Oh wow,
Voyeur.
R.I.P. Voyeur.
We're going back.
Wow.
It was like 2013, 12, 13-ish?
I'm really happy we didn't win that competition because we were not ready for that.
We probably would have made us DJs a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
You would have done it. Could have been cool.
Full send.
It would have been amazing. But
so Whiplash comes out 2013, and you guys start making more music together? Or like when does Hollywood Principle as we know it come together?
I feel like we wrote Whiplash and it was pretty... we were like, all right, this is cool. Let's do something with this. And we started working some new stuff. And then we started on the Starting Over EP because that came out 2015, maybe.
First song was Find Me Out.
Yeah.
So that would have been 15.
So I'd say like right after that. Like sometimes you just know when you're working with somebody, you're like, all right, this is working. Like this is good. Like let's just. So I don't know if there was we actually were working under, like, we hadn't even come up with a band name yet. I think we were going by like Unreal.
Yeah, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, he was working at a video game company, and at the time we were like, all right, Unreal Engine, like, this is probably not the best look. Like, it's kind of silly. I'm a programmer as well. I do a lot of software development, and I was like reading this book of like how to write really clean code. And we're talking about in there the Hollywood principle, which doesn't really matter what it is, but it's all about like the whole concept is like, don't call us, we'll call you. And I kind of took a step back from that, being like, I know this, I got this from a programming book. But that's kind of a cool concept, like drive your own way, like figure out your own thing. So
I like that you're owning it.
Yeah. All right. So once for 10 years ago,
for like 10 years.
Wait, why do you say that?
For 10 years, like he's like, what? No, don't tell people that. That's nerdy. Blah, blah, blah.
One time we're playing a show like in LA at the Avalon or something, and somebody asked that question, and I whiffed the answer, And Dev was like, oh, I don't know. But like one of those things what you should never do. You should just own it. Absolutely. But now I still get it brought up every time. We worked together a long time, dude. These jokes like just
I don't let things
carry
go.
on.
There
They
might
really
be there's some like band names that are probably really easy for them to just be like, oh, it's this. You know what that is. But I mean, I deal with the same thing with same but different.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, what's that? Oh, the movie, right?
Yeah. We get Hollywood Principal a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are the Hollywood teachers.
Yeah.
I've been guilty of that. I've spelled it wrong.
Well, spelling it wrong is okay. Like,
I didn't know what. I mean, I didn't know what the real story was behind the name. So it's interesting.
Welcome
to know
the stage, Hollywood Principals. Ooh.
Yeah.
You were gonna ask something.
Just that's my nightmare, dude. These guys are teachers from Los Angeles. Oh, no,
I just like letting them run.
Yeah, we'll just let them ride.
So you guys, I mean, you make that song with like when do you start really working on music? What I think you guys are really good at is like finding rhythms on how you're making music and how you're putting music out. And it's like it's been something that's like really blown my mind when I see you guys, like how much you're putting out, how good it is, how there's like such a high level of music. And then also, and this is like a big, full encompassing thing, but I think it's something for like musicians nowadays just have to do everything.
Right.
And it's like, there's so much to do. And one thing that you guys kick ass at is putting out music like into the ether on the internet and getting more than 2 plays, which is what a lot, like I know so many musicians that make really good music. They send over their stuff and like you listen to it and it's like, oh my God, this is dope. And it's like 3 plays or 2 plays and it's like, nothing's out there. You guys are phenomenal at getting it all out there and like kind of putting some rhythms to it.
It's interesting you view that as a strength because there's parts of that I would agree with and parts of that I definitely would not.
Yeah, it's nice to hear you say that because I feel like we don't put out anywhere near enough music. And when it goes out, I do appreciate that we've got we've figured out some things as time goes on. And one of those is kind of like the online promotion game for these things, like where to put them on like online platforms if you want to like drive streaming numbers and stuff like that. But we have too many unreleased songs.
Yeah,
that need to get out there.
Did you guys have like a moment or a big break possibly early in your career that helped boost you guys to where you went to?
Coming to mind.
Nothing came to mind.
Actually,
yeah.
What would that be? I was
just trying to think of any moment you might have had or like
it's just been a really slow, chill, like upward tick.
We've never put our songs in anything. They just exist.
Just exist on the internet.
On their own.
Mike got us in Rocket League. Yeah.
Well, I want to get to Rocket League too, but you have other songs that weren't in Rocket League that like, where do you go? Are you, is it like just onto Spotify? Are you like hitting up playlist owners? Are you like, what are you doing? Like, what is a DJ, a producer nowadays? Like, what do they have to do? What do they have to know to be able to get that out there?
I guess I could like list off like some specific services or whatever you use, but the real rub with this is that it's always changing and anything I give you now in 3 months is going to be like out of date. The real thing you got to be okay with is it's the same thing with like any other sales. Like you got to be totally unafraid to show this to somebody and put it in front of them and have them be like, I don't like this. I'm going to skip on that and just spend the time to like hit up everyone you can. All the stuff is on Google. All the stuff is on YouTube. There's no specific things, but you just have to put in the work. And, we do a lot of that. It's trying to find people and connections. I mean, we also have like we try to make sure that everybody we ever interact with feels good about that interaction at the end of the day. So, we can hit somebody up.
That's super important.
Yeah, we were working with, shout out Mike Mineo, PR guy, like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, 6 years later, we just hit him up out of the blue saying like, hey, like, can we do some more business with you? And he was stoked to work with us, which
it's a good sign.
We always try to keep that kind of relationship going. And I think those things just compound over time,
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, when you have nothing, nobody cares, but eventually you have to take each little win and, leverage those into something else.
I would say one of our strengths is the fact that we don't try to do it all ourselves. All of Hollywood Principle, like every single song at this point, is not just me and Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
We have Alex and Isaiah. Shout out Alex. Shout
out Isaiah.
Yeah. That's right. We're pulling in our podcast into your podcast. Take that.
Just inception of podcast.
Which is weird because you're the producer on this podcast. So I don't know how
I
that
produce
goes.
a lot of podcasts.
It's all his.
Is 2 a lot?
Yes. Absolutely.
That is a lot.
That is a lot.
In the podcast world.
That's true. Yeah.
That's so much work. But like Alex and Isaiah are on every single song, and we work with tons of different singers. We try to work with other writers.
Yeah.
The more we involve other people, the better it always ends up being.
Yeah, it's like that. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go quick, go alone. I think that's like definitely.
Lord of the Rings.
Is that really from Lord of the Rings?
No.
Well,
That's a good way to be devastating, dude. That's my favorite Lord of the Rings quote. What?
You said that you have too many unreleased tracks.
Yeah.
How do you know when to release a track? When do you guys sit on one? When do you guys put it out there?
It kind of just depends. I mean, so we're doing a lot of stuff with Same as well. Shout out Same but different. Shout out different paths. So like after the festival, like, there's just been a couple things going on. So we're sitting on a couple tracks that we actually need to put out, but we haven't really done anything for a couple months, like kind of like a break, hiatus. I don't know. Hiatus feels like lowercase h on hiatus,
Yeah.
Backwards H.
Backwards H.
We were hitting it real hard for
Yeah.
like real hard.
Tell us about that a little bit. How were you guys hitting hard? Like, what were you doing differently in that era?
We played a lot of shows.
Yeah, we set a goal to play, what was it, 5, maybe 10 shows? And
Brad was our booker.
Yeah, shout out Brad.
So a lot of cross-pollination going on here in this podcast episode.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
He crushed it and got us a lot of shows. Like, for sure. We played Northern Nights.
I'm going to say 20 shows. It was like way too many. There's a lot of shows.
Well, we also told him, like, literally, let's play everything and anything, no matter what. And that put us in a lot of weird spots, for sure.
I enjoyed
and next thing you knew, you were on this podcast.
Yeah.
So you guys were working, super hard. So it was a little bit of just grind.
Yeah.
Well,
let's take a break.
Within this year,
which is totally normal.
Yeah.
We launched our DJ set series, Blend, which we did 3 episodes. One, like the final one was on a yacht. And then we launched our podcast. All of that was this year.
Yeah.
So when you look at that.
That was all 2024?
That was all 2024.
Wow. And then we've put out
Runaway,
Red Lights,
Take Me Away.
Loaded should be out. We have another song coming out, Loaded, that one of us has to push the button on.
Close
Distro
to Home,
Kid.
which we're not pushing out.
Yeah.
And then the Synogen remix.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so that's a fair bit of music.
Shout out Synogen.
Well, because here's the thing because knowing you guys, I know that you both, because you did something that every single musician I've ever talked to, and honestly, any creative, any artist has, thought about it. It's like you quit the job to go full time and really just work on things for a while. And what would you say the biggest difference is, or what did you guys see doing that?
It's hard. Straight up. I mean, like, it sounds like it would be a lot of fun. I learned a lot more video than I ever thought I would learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, not even just related to, working on same stuff, but like just Hollywood Principle, I learned a ton of video stuff. And we basically learned to DJ this year. Like we knew before this year, but like it's this year that we really...
Yeah, yes, we knew like how to DJ, but when you're playing a lot of shows and stuff, you learn how to be like,
really
okay, like I misread the crowd. Oh, I biffed it. Oh, the gear is broken. Oh, like, the sound guy doesn't like me. Oh, like the crowd is empty. Oh, the crowd is like huge. Like, you have to deal every single piece of these, like until you go and experience it is insurmountable.
You guys knew the fundamentals of it, but or like the technical part, but figured out the actual like personality of it all, right?
Right.
How to put on a show.
It's like, I can drive my car. Okay, let's go like rally race on the weekends. Like it doesn't work that way.
Right.
You have to go do it.
And it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Because we played the show in San Francisco, which was a 360 show.
Yeah, that was great.
And we played for 2.5, 3 hours It was like stupid. We played forever and we really got everyone going. And then we went immediately from there to Northern Nights to play, where we were like riding on like cloud 9.
Yeah.
And that show was kind of garbage.
Yeah.
So it's like very humbling. Like you'll be like, yeah, I finally figured it out. And then like we'd go in and be like, we are terrible at this.
Well, I mean, we kind of missed the vibe and we wrote like a bunch of new tunes and we're like, this is a great time to like play a bunch of those tunes. And, one of them was good and the rest were kind of like, nothing will tell you whether something works or not than playing it to 100 plus people. You immediately know.
There's so many things with it though too, because it's the people that are there, which, a packed room might be 200 people, and a different 200 people might react completely different. And there's the energy there. It's daytime versus nighttime. It's how much did they drink or, it's so weird.
It's not only that, but like when you're writing music in front of a computer and you're like, should this be 8 bars? Should this be 16 bars? I don't know. This feels good. Once you're playing it on stage and you're like looking out there, you immediately know if you made it too long.
Yep.
Like immediately you're like, oh my God, this is dragging.
And that's the thing. Like once you go play like a lot of shows, and for me, this is my biggest takeaway is like you just get that bulletproof mindset. You're like, okay, that didn't work. Like on to the next.
Are people like leaving, not vibing? Like what, for someone like me who doesn't know, like what happens? What's the memory of being like you knew at that moment, you're like, oof.
It can be hard too, because like we write a lot of stuff that's kind of moody. And I like the last time we played at Same, like we had the conversation of like, we kept pushing over the year into like really heavy bass stuff, but that really wasn't where we were headed writing wise.
It's where I want to go. I love bass.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun.
Shout out bass.
It's really fun to play live because like people go crazy for it.
Yeah.
But a lot of our music is definitely more melodic and like vibey, which the crowd, acts different. Like the what you anticipate off them is very different. It can be really hard to read a crowd, especially if that's the vibe you're trying to curate, because like, are they bored or are they just having a good time? Like it's such a weird balance.
I think it's very, this is something we learned early on as well too. It's very easy to go out and say, okay, I'm going to go play Beatport Top 100, stuff that I know that works. Like these are definitely crowd pleasers and that's great. And then you're every other DJ. Who cares? So it's very hard to like actually get booked to do that unless you're writing stuff that's top 100.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to be like, I'm going to curate a sound that can fit into this vibe, but also be me, be us. Like that is more challenging. And we're starting to finally, I think, hit some strides with that.
It's kind of like, it's really easy to be a good DJ. It's really hard to be a great DJ.
Yeah.
Like anyone that wants to learn to DJing, it'd be easy to learn in like a week. Yeah, if you really wanted to learn.
We're teaching 2 hours.
It's not hard. But like being a great DJ, like the more you learn about it, like, and you see great DJs, you're like, whoa.
That's good. It's interesting to hear from you guys because you guys are both talented musicians too.
Thank you.
And I hear a lot of musicians that don't know how to DJ and have never done that before. And they're usually just like, yeah, that's garbage. I don't care about DJs.
I think that's being very close-minded about it. Like you can definitely see people who are wizards at DJing. They absolutely know how to take and transition from anything all the time. We've seen people who we know who I'm just like, I need to go back and learn more stuff because these guys are super, super dialed on this.
Yeah.
And a lot of it too is like, I think the reason why people say that about DJing is because there's so much technology that can streamline that stuff for you. But when you're in live situations, you can't rely on any of that. That's one of the reasons why we're talking about some gigs that didn't go so well. It's because, things that if you rely on that being there, they weren't working that day. And if you can't adjust to that and actually have like the fundamentals to charge through and be able to perform,
make a snap decision.
Yeah.
If everything's on rails, it's
when you're on stage, like it doesn't matter what goes wrong, it's your fault, So you have to make sure that you're
why we ended up buying CDJs. We both had controllers and then we played Arcadia in Vegas. And
shout out Arcadia.
It was maybe like the second time we were on CDJs, which is largely the same thing as a controller. Like, they're not that different. But if you're not used to setting up CDJs and like it's not set up the way that you would expect, yeah.
Oh, it's got to be like how it's hopping onto another, like a computer you've never used before.
What one of mine just broke during that thing and it was stuck on one of the songs and I was not skilled enough to understand like what to do about that. I was like, oh, I don't know. It's okay. I'll just ditch this, and now I'm down to one.
That was a year ago exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
So what do you
That's
do?
Crazy.
Like, what do you do when one breaks?
Usually it's like a setting that if you don't spend the time to understand how that works, like there's not a lot you can do. You have to like know actually the
you have to know
function. Yeah.
So Northern Nights is a great example of this because Arcadia, we had one deck that like messed up and we kind of panicked. We didn't know really how to handle it.
It was literally stuck on a milli. Like, I don't know what to do about this.
Not the worst place to be stuck at.
I mean, there's only so many millions you can get away with.
Yeah. It's like, all right, something's wrong here.
These people wish they were rich.
Yeah.
Every transition's a milli, right back to our song.
They love the song. I don't get it.
But in Northern Nights, we were promised 4 decks and we only had 2 decks. And then like while we're up there, they brought a 3rd deck and the other decks stopped working together. It was like a nightmare of like literally everything that could go wrong technologically. So I guess framing it that way, that was an okay set given all the problems that we faced.
It's not their fault. Like this thing's happening.
No, it's not their fault. It's just the fact that we got through that versus like a small thing of like a loop getting stuck a year before.
Yeah. Being devastating.
That's wild. In just a year. So that was a year ago. Yeah. And that was kind of like one of the intro live sets.
Yeah.
That you guys did.
Elliott and I are very extra. We put a lot of effort into things like immediately.
Well, you do. So, and I know you guys and you strive for such excellence and you guys are hard on yourself if you guys are not at that like level of like where you guys want to be. I mean, in looking at it, you guys are, I think last time I checked, like just on Spotify alone, like there was like 190,000 monthly listeners.
I honestly don't look anymore.
Like think of that, but that number is just crazy of how, I mean, that's a lot of people every month that are tuning in to listen to your guys' music.
Thank you very much.
Which is, I mean, a testament. It's good stuff that's going out there. I mean, it's really good. And that's a lot of people. That's like a city full of people in Iowa somewhere.
Yeah. In Iowa.
Small Montana,
Iowa.
Yeah. I was like a city, as I said that
so
sentence,
nice,
I was like,
just wham!
I was like, that's not a full city. You know, I saw a post today that was like, it was like the most populous cities in like this
like
area.
A city, except like a small shitty one in somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
You guys are so impressive.
Do you know how many small shitty cities listen to my music? None.
It depends on how small. I mean, it should be like a 3-block radius, like a small zip code.
I learned, I was just watching about a small island community off of Massachusetts that's 200 strong. And that's about what's listening to my music.
That sounds sick. I'd go there.
Yeah.
It seems like a cool island.
It looks like a really cool island.
Throw a festival.
If you like anybody, like if you need police, if you need anything, it all comes in by boat or by plane.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a lawless Brad Sweet music loving island.
I'm huge.
Big Brad Sweet fans over there. Brad Mouse 6, huge on the island.
I bought billboards across the whole island. And one day I'm going to go.
Yeah.
How much do billboards cost on the world's smallest island?
Just throw them in. They can't take them out.
Yeah.
There's no police.
There's not
like
enough people.
Posters out of a plane going
not
over
enough people.
Just a picture of your face just on pamphlets everywhere. I love it.
So I wanted to then come back to Rocket League.
Wait, I want to talk more real quick before we cut over to that too, because you talk a lot about like being hard on yourself. And I think that's one of the most important takeaways I had from doing this full time is that you need to give yourself grace and just let go. And every time you like try and ratchet up the pressure of like, this has to be perfect or, this has to be good, you're just working against yourself. And that has really been a big lesson that has come in over the last year because we had like a whole album that got scrapped because of like licensing deals and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did.
That's crazy. So you guys made a whole album.
June or July or something.
EP, 5 songs.
Yeah,
this year.
EP. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And it's currently like in limbo and, that's not a big deal. This happens. Like it's just part of the thing. But
we don't really like it anymore.
I don't want to gloss over it. So what happened? So you were going to release this and what licensing things happened?
Give us the hot con.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too much into the hot gossip of it specifically because like everybody involved I have a ton of respect for and these things just kind of fall apart and it's not a big deal. It's still, we played the game perfectly and it all failed.
You better knock it off, Mike. You're going to get yelled at.
Yeah, you have to make sure it's this
by yourself. You're going to
to
yell at yourself on that one.
I will edit out.
I will edit.
I edit out that sound all the time. Go ahead.
So, it falls apart. And, I was pretty devastated for a couple days there because, we had poured, like, not only that, this was a whole bunch of stuff that was here to facilitate us taking our DJ sets to the next level. So we could actually go, as I spoke to before, help curate a specific vibe that's like, all right, I'm going to go see these guys and they're going to play this music,
Mm-hmm.
That falls apart and it's a huge setback. And it's really important to just roll with those punches. You can be sad about it, but
it's hard.
You pick yourself up and you keep going and,
It would have been a big win. There was a sync deal associated with it. Like it was going to get put in something good.
What's a sync deal, like high level?
Like the Rocket League thing is a sync deal, right? Yep. Like the music was synced to another product, more or less.
Okay.
And in that, you get a lot more ears on your music.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's tied to something else, like people are more likely to have an affinity. They're more likely to digest most of it versus being, as an artist, like just sending music out into the ether of like, play my song. If they don't like it within 5 seconds, you're pretty much screwed. But like a sync deal gives you, think how many times you've watched a movie and there's like a song that comes on in like a really cool moment and you're like, oh, I love that song.
Yeah. Ask yourself like any theme to a movie that you really like. Would you like that theme if you just heard it without being associated with the movie?
Yeah. I didn't even know this. So a full EP that ended up not getting, or we should say
still in limbo.
We should say hasn't gotten released yet. I mean, this is this summer.
Well,
so things happen. I mean,
things happen. Yeah.
It was written a while. Like the original incarnation of the ideas were written almost 2 years ago, and then it was throttled because it had the potential of like a full-on release package, full-on sync deal, full-on everything, and then it fell apart from there. Which it happens.
Yeah, it just happens. And I guess a part of the thing too is when you're really cranking on music, and you're like, okay, we're gonna write 30 songs, 40, 50 songs or something, right? Like sometimes when you have something that's like already set and ready to go, and you have now moved past that like significantly in your creative journey, like to come back and like really fight for something that is now we don't even like the EP anymore because we've heard it 100 times and we're like, all right, cool.
And we're much better.
So it's always like an interesting problem. I don't know. Everything's a step in the journey.
When will you know, or will you have like a definitive answer if it's going to be completely scrapped, or
it's scrapped?
Yeah, it's scrapped.
Done.
I don't even want to release it anymore.
Yeah. Okay. You're coming out with a lot of really strong opinions on this.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you
heard it first. Different Path Podcasts.
But
it's a good podcasting voice you have there.
Well, and I feel like but everything is just it's a longevity game. And if you're trying to, say, hey, in 6 months I want to blow up, it's just unrealistic. And it's just the long, crazy grind of it all. And you never know. You never know what's going to hit.
I always find that interesting because when I talk to people who are like, oh, you're a musician, like, do you play stadiums, or do you they're looking for this like pop star kind of idea of like success, which I always am like, that's so not what people should be striving for. You should be looking for being able to make an honest living, spreading your craft, something you love. And there's such a middle ground between like I'm the weekend level pop star and playing at the bar down the street, which I've done a ton of, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and I mean the grind for the people that are touring every day and they're playing stadiums or even just like concert halls with 1,000 people, 1,500 people, and making good money. You just have to love that life on the road.
Yeah.
And that's because they're living in hotels.
It's a lot.
They're on buses. Like even at the highest level, they're in a lot of buses.
Yeah.
Like at the very highest level, maybe jets and hotels, but it's not being home a lot. It is a ton of you need to be living for that lifestyle. It's tough. It's really tough. And if you're at the middle or like lower or that grind going up, you're basically homeless. There's not CD sales anymore. There's not there's not all these things that supplement that. So it's it's
Skid Row, baby.
Tough. It's a tough grind. Just doing that.
Did you guys find? So you very quickly, right? So you like release music, goes big, right? And then you guys now this last 2024 transform into where you're solely producers and producer DJs. Did you find that you liked the like life on the road, the travel, the playing in front of bigger audiences, smaller audiences? Like, did you enjoy it like you thought? Like,
high, low, lows.
Exactly. There's certain parts that are super enjoyable. And there's definitely my least favorite thing in the world is making social media content. Like for sure, especially with like how you're supposed to make social media content, where it's like the Daniel Allen approach of ship like 4,000 videos and then just keep of the same song and one of them will do something.
Shout out Daniel Allen.
Yeah, like if you ever have actually tried to do that, come up with 4,000 videos that are even
crazy,
like mediocre, like not even mediocre, even garbage. 4,000 videos of garbage is impossible.
I will say, like, after I listened to his podcast episode that you guys did, I really liked his mentality. It was like, look, if there's one part of my job that is really terrible and it's this.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty nice. It is terrible. And it's even worse because, again, you're like throwing yourself out there and seeing if algorithms pick up on what you're putting out, which is really tough.
But social media is the devil.
So that's what of this year, your lowest of lows is social media. What was the highest of highs?
No, that's definitely not my
That wouldn't be your lowest low? What would be your lowest low?
It's bad shows. It's going somewhere and being like all excited to do something is coming in and be like, I didn't.
Interesting.
I didn't hit this the way that I wanted to, you know? Again, it happens and it's fine, but like, I think that's the real thing because that's where the rubber meets the road. You know, I'm making this music and I'm going out and I'm playing it for people. And if people go, meh, like, you know, it's always, that's the worst.
Is the live show equally important to both you guys? Like, do you care about the live show more than you care about the live show?
I would say the live show we both care about equally. Like we're both pretty invested on the live show front.
Let me rephrase it. Is it the high, like that humongous euphoria you get? Not so much care, because I know you guys don't do anything half-assed. It's just not you guys. But like,
damn right. Thank you.
I mean, it's very true. Like you guys don't. There's nothing like HP doesn't do okay. There's just no way around it besides the weird shoe thing you guys are doing. But
we're not half-assing it.
What I'm curious about is like,
it's totally my humor.
If your lowest of low, Elliott, was the fact that you had a bad show, and Mike's is like the daily business of the whole, is the highest of high for both of you guys, like that bang up show, that 200 or whatever, the 360 show that had 100 million people that were just all about it. Like that's what the why is, that
the highest to high for sure. Like releasing music's weird because it's nice to put songs out, but it's kind of unfulfilling in a way because you're just watching a little bar graph. You know, like most of the people that listen to it, you don't ever interact with. A great show, I feel like we're both stoked on.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have people come up to you and like they've heard your music, it's affected them, anything like that?
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I'm always shocked when that happens.
It's really wild.
There were a couple folks who drove down from LA for some shows in San Diego earlier this year that I was like, I cannot believe this is actually happening.
They liked us enough to travel 3-4 hours on a Friday night just to see us.
Because like you threw out some nice numbers about how we've seen success, and those are great. But you know, it still feels like we're on this journey, you know, and we're not at this destination yet. It's continually in progress. So I find it incredibly humbling when somebody's like invested enough to take 2-4 hours out to come see us DJ at a club. You know?
We hung out with them too.
Well, it's cool, and I'm sure it exists all over the. I mean, it's just staggering. That many numbers of people listening on, and of course some are passively listening on playlists and things like that. But there's some that are listening, and it's, you know, changing. They're listening at the right moment when they needed something, you know, in life. And it might be a couple hundred, it might be a couple thousand people, but like that's just, I mean, got to be pretty crazy to think about.
Sometimes when the numbers feel real, which is rare, like comments feel real, good and bad.
What's the first comment that comes to mind? Like just is there any comment that comes to top of head?
It's this guy who, when we were first coming up with our own podcast, which, you know, 2 DJs doing a podcast, you know, like it's goofy as shit, of course, but this guy's like, nobody asked for this. I'm like,
brother.
I hate just.
The worst part is
when somebody
like
just
you're doing right. You're doing right.
Elliott's response to there was one of the TikTok videos that we put out where like it was us on the balcony with like just the drone, and it was doing really well on TikTok.
Yeah, that one
did like 100,000 plays or something. It was like, what? That's random. And there was one comment that's like, "You're trash." And it's just like, like what the hell?
No, I'm a firm believer in like, you know, if people are starting to be like taking time out to like hate on what you're doing, that means you're starting to get some critical mass.
Yeah,
you good way to think about it.
You got to have haters.
Yeah,
you got to have haters.
Again, like it's back to the show thing.
Absolutely terrible.
Is there any comments that come to mind that were like really positive, where you're like, that was super fucking cool.
Yeah, there's been a couple people, you mentioned this before about like people who listen to the music to help them get through like a really dark place in their life, which
that's cool.
That's always like, we've gotten more of those than I would think.
Yeah.
Especially because, some of the stuff that we've written has been through, like we've been going through stuff and trying to channel like something that's happening in our lives. And it's interesting that other people resonate with that and helps them. And I'm always, again, super humbled by that.
I mean, our songs are moody. I mean, there's no way around it. Like when you think about the original idea for the Starting Over EP was the 5 stages of loss. We didn't really push that element of it like publicly, but that was, like each of the songs was designed to evoke one of those emotions. It's cool when someone like resonates appropriately with what we were thinking when the idea came up.
Has that been talked about publicly? Like, is anyone...
See, I think the idea there is, if you pick on that, great. If not, no. It doesn't have to be the marketing tagline.
You heard it here first.
So that's so there's 5 songs in the EP. And
it's 5 stages of loss.
It's what is that again?
Despair, anger, bargaining, acceptance, depression. Depression is the third one, I think. Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
There's some final one, right?
I think it's acceptance.
Yeah, there we go.
Which is the song Seeing What's Next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. That's cool. And somebody picked up on that?
Yes and no. I don't think they picked up on like the whole EP, but like I think Breathing Underwater, it's funny because there's so many different interpretations. That's probably like the song that most people identify with us because of the Ether remix, which is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Shout out Ether.
But it makes it such a different vibe than like this song is like really close to Elliott. Like, it was, it's a pretty heavy song. And it's intended to be about depression. So if you pay attention to the words, they're really depressing.
Mm-hmm.
And when, every now and then
but they
someone
make sick vocal chops.
They do. So it's like a really, like the remix is very excited and dancey and everything. But like, if you really pay attention to it, it's like, whoa, this song is just straight up about depression.
It's funny how that goes sometimes. Like when there's a catchy beat, you're singing and it's like when you slow down the song, listen to the lyrics, and it's like, oh my God, this is really sad.
Slowed and reverb and you're like, oh no.
What did
people have paid, like the people that pay attention to the words, like they get it.
So what did anything inspire that for you guys to go with that? Like, hey, we're gonna go with
yes.
The 5 stages of loss.
But I don't want to talk about it on this podcast.
Yes is where we leave it then.
Yeah.
Yes is where we leave it.
This is getting edited out of the podcast.
We don't edit.
Yeah, we don't edit.
This is staying in the podcast.
Yeah. So you guys, I want to get back now, finally, if we can, to Rocket League.
Oh.
Because
you don't want to talk about my first
You guys
prize?
put out this...
Oh, that's coming.
Oh, you brought that?
Of course I brought it, dude. Why would I put it on the intake form and not bring this?
We'll talk about the souvenirs you brought, the show and tell.
Nope, now we're getting to that.
I was like,
that is actually...
We can talk about that.
I don't think I've ever seen that piece. I've seen something else.
Yeah.
What is this? Let's talk about that.
So,
he really wants to talk about Rocket
people
League.
never believe that I am an excellent woodworker, and I am here to put this to fucking bed for once. This is a first prize from 2003 from the San Diego, the Del Mar Fair.
So you made this ribbon?
No, I made the bowl.
And put it on a cup you bought?
It was supposed to be a chessboard, but now it's a bowl.
Same cup at Home Goods like 2 weeks ago.
He made what's inside it.
Wow.
There's nothing inside.
This is really good work.
It's cold.
This is very
so cold.
Yeah.
Talking about the 5 stages of loss, and now you're talking about nothing inside of him. Cold.
What?
That feels unrelated.
That's very unrelated.
Excellent lathe work.
Yeah.
We're not editing anything.
So what do? You put the pieces of wood in?
I don't know. It's 2003. The art is
This
lost.
is actually really good.
It's really legit.
It's first prize.
I would say nice.
How do you make this? Like just real high level. Do you glue it all together? Is it all glued together?
You glue it all together. You got to chop a bunch of wood. You got to glue it all together, and you have to do very precise lathe work.
When was the last time you did woodworking?
That's what I said.
Probably I had zero idea you could do this.
Impressive. I don't know.
You didn't know he did that? You've
No.
never heard him talk about this?
No,
he brings it up when he's drunk randomly.
I know.
I guess we never. I guess woodworking has ever come up on the.
I know. It just happened.
And people always have the same reaction. They're like, I don't like. No, you don't.
Yeah, there you go.
When was the last time you got in the shop?
Fired at the lathe?
Chop something up a little bit. You know what I mean?
It's been too long.
How old were you when you made that?
This is from 2003, so I'll let you do that, Mass.
So has it been 10 years? 5 years?
I say probably 10 years, but it's like riding a bike. It's not a big deal.
Are you thinking about getting back into it? I mean, you brought it's important. I'd love to see some work.
Well, I put it on the intake form, and I feel.
You know what's crazy? If you got a lathe, you could probably start busting some stuff out.
I know
they're cool to work on. I worked on in high school shop class or whatever, woodworking class.
Woodworking.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah. That was when they had a lathe, and I tried to make pipes to smoke out of.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I wanted to make a little one.
What were you smoking out of the pipe?
Like literally anything I could find.
Meth.
Yeah. What the oregano.
Seeds and garbage and anything. I actually got my mom to help me drill out the bowl for it.
And she didn't have any questions?
I was like, no, it's for shop class. Sandy. I was like, it's this thing. I need to like use this drill. She's like, what are you using the drill for? It was like on aluminum too. So it was in metals class. That's what it was. Oh and which is just so bad to smoke. Like,
out of aluminum, probably. I mean, probably not the strongest.
You live, you learn.
I got.
Did you bring it?
I was 14 and I didn't know it was show and tell.
I didn't know you were actually bringing that. Like I saw you put it down on the intake form. I'm like, oh, that's funny. I didn't think you would actually bring.
Yeah, I just want to point out that we thought it'd be very funny for us to fill out details about the other person for the intake form.
I got that.
And you guys have just glossed over it completely.
Yeah.
And
there wasn't much appropriate things we could talk about that you guys
What are you
brought
talking
up.
about? I apparently believe in ghosts, and Elliott is afraid of Propecia.
I mean, it does bring us to my next topic I wanted to bring up, that if you were on a plane
Oh, God.
and the pilot was incapacitated, a commercial plane, of course, Mike, specifically, do you feel like you could land that
Why
plane?
are you asking me? This question was written by him, actually.
Now we need to know it. The world needs to know. So
I know the answer to this.
If the pilot's incapacitated, you jump on.
Because we've talked about this before.
Could you land a plane? You're a big plane enthusiast. I think that's important to remember.
So I'm being talked through it on a plane that can land with like an ILS and like all of these systems and stuff. If it was a Cessna, absolutely not.
This guy thinks he can land a plane.
If it's a big plane and I'm being talked through it, because like they're all automatic. Like you just like, oh yeah, like set these dials. Like you're just following instructions. I absolutely could do that. There's no touch necessary.
You know what? It's like the CDJs. You hop on them and all of a sudden one thing starts going wrong.
If this was the office, it would be like zooming in on everyone's face right now.
It would be like the CDJs, but you have Tiesto like in your ear telling you what to do next.
That's hilarious.
Maybe.
Elliott, could you land the plane?
Absolutely not. We're dead, dude.
Crash straight down. What's this one do? Just right into the ground?
Yeah.
Are you going to try to land the plane?
I'll try. I'm just not overconfident in my abilities.
It could be done. Like, that's the thing is like on those planes, for sure.
Are you
so automatic?
Are you a fight or flight person?
I'm fight.
Fight?
Oh, yeah.
Fight?
Yeah. Also, I just got all of my karate belts back from my mom, too. That's where this came from. By the way.
Naturally, that was my next question.
Turning into the podcast about Elliott's childhood.
I almost brought those in, too.
What belt did you get to?
Did you have a blanket?
Brown belt, red stripe with 3 white little loops around it, which I don't know what that really means, but it means I could not get black belt, you know?
Everything but.
They were like, I was like, this guy just doesn't got it, dude.
That's right before black belt, right?
Yeah.
Brown belt? When I took karate in Shodojan, that was the type of karate.
I did Washin Ryu.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what those mean anymore.
The open hands.
But like red black was the last one before black. It was like a half and half belt.
I don't know why you use that weird, non-typical belt system. It's definitely brown-red.
What age did you guys do that to? Both of you?
10.
How do you both feel karate has shaped your music?
I feel it every day. It's shaped my life.
It's amazing. Like if there's one piece of advice I can give to people, it's take karate.
When did you stop?
Oh, shoot.
When I started doing music,
like when you were 10, like when you were
probably 12.
I think never stopped. You never stop. It's a life.
I didn't know you took karate.
Yeah, well,
look at you guys just in the dojo hanging out together.
I almost brought in so many ridiculous props, guys. Like, I really wish I did.
You should have told me you were going to bring in props. I have so many props I could have brought.
Well, you gotta take initiative.
It's part of the live set learning.
Don't call us. We'll call you.
Oh, God.
I'm sure you guys are going to be on again very soon.
I hope so.
I'm hoping we can actually have a picture of Mike in high school right here.
Yeah.
Does that work?
It does work.
There you go.
Yeah. Mike will do it too. So
what do you guys got coming
I'm the
up?
one that has to do that.
That's why I did it.
That's so okay. Fine.
And then a picture of Elliott as a kid here.
Ooh, I'm excited about that. I'm going to make that one bigger.
We don't have anything coming up right now.
Christmas.
What's 2025 look like for HP?
We're going to put out an EP.
You're sitting on a lot of songs right now, right? You
No.
said that you're sitting on something that you don't want to release. You're sitting on something you can't release. We don't want to talk about that.
There's no plan for 2025, and I don't mean that in the way that like nothing
Last time
will
we
happen.
talked, we were gonna write an EP.
Yeah, but we haven't written it. So
we're shifting from DJ mode to producer mode again? Somewhat?
I mean, it's
somewhat, yeah.
kind of like
Little
go
this,
hand in
little
hand.
that. Figuring it out.
for sure. They're like you do both.
Are you actively trying to book shows for 2025?
I don't know, Brad.
Brad.
I am.
Brad, are they actively trying to book shows?
Yeah. There's a couple festivals coming up that they are going to be playing at.
There's a couple festivals that we're going to be playing at.
Are we trying to do the festivals?
Those
We're trying
lineups
to
have not
do.
been released yet.
Festivals is our goal for 2025 for sure.
Okay.
I enjoyed playing the strip club in Chicago. That was quite fun.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks. Shout out Tim.
Tim.
It's more of a, I mean, it's a strip club, but it's more of, it's like,
that was 90% strip club. I remember looking up
I've
and
never
we
been.
did some sick transition. I just see some girl twirling on a pole, and that's the only thing I see. Just tits everywhere.
It's kind of like 11.
It was
like
honestly
11
great.
Miami. They call it Gold Room Chicago.
Yeah.
Was that a good?
Shout out Bobby,
all right,
too.
1 to 10. Was that a good show? Where would you put that?
It was a lot of fun.
See, it's tough because I want to say both 10 and 1.
Yeah,
It was just
So
not
what you would want to
was
play.
going to be.
Not what you would want to play as far as shows go, but a lot of fun.
I guess
Or
if it wasn't in Chicago,
it's just a lot of work.
It
in
was
there.
just a lot of work getting there. And also we had a fantastic time in Chicago, all around, everybody came out. I think 50 people came to that show and that they were with us. It's
You came
rolling
Yeah, I
deep
did.
out to
I was in Chicago for 36 hours for that thing.
like 10 of our friends flew from San Diego.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Crazy.
But I just had a different picture in my head.
Same.
What did you envision? I didn't know what it was either. So I'm curious what you guys envisioned.
So more people. Because the 100 free tickets went really fast at the beginning. So I was like, oh shit, this is going to be lit.
I think this is one of the things you got to learn about too, is that
If it's free tickets,
free tickets don't show up. Yeah.
After seeing the acts that had played there, it is a legitimate venue.
Mhm.
It's a dope venue.
Yeah, Nervo and Laid Back Luke played there within the last
But we were just
5-6 years.
we were just playing a strip club, which is its own
It's
kind of
good
badge of
practice, too.
honor.
It's good practice too.
Yeah, we played for 2 hours there too.
Yeah.
And then we got too drunk.
They kick you off.
They did kick us off.
They might have kicked us off.
Nice.
Are you?
I went to.
left.
You
I
didn't
didn't know this. How does
No,
that happen?
I left because I had to fly back out early.
Part of the problem is Ashley was like, "Are we getting another bottle?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "All right." He came back and got another one.
Well, it's because
And it's
they gave us so normally it's cranberry and orange juice. They gave us pitchers of Red Bull
Yeah.
with the vodka. So you're literally bottle service with multiple bottles, and it's Red Bull vodka. So I remember going to the bathroom and then walking out and just hearing a train wreck on stage, going "Ooh, this is not going well for us."
Yeah.
And then we went up there and the guy's like, "Yeah, you guys I know you were told 2 hours, but we got to pull you off." And I remember trying to talk to the guy. This is a terrible story to tell. I remember trying to talk to the guy.
Wow, I did not. I missed all of this.
I tried to talk to the guy and I was slurring my words. And as soon as I started talking, I was like, "Oh no, he's right. Yeah, we should be done."
This is another good example too of our perception of this show versus everybody else's perception of the show. We're just yeah, it was great.
Yeah, everyone had a great time. I remember Hepta, shout out Hepta, was yeah, you guys crushed it.
I remember. I mean, I left early because I don't know what reason. I was just drunk. I was just sipping and it just hit, and I was like, I gotta get the hell out of here. I had a flight at 8 a.m. or something, and as people may not know, Chicago bars go till 4 or 5 a.m. So
it was late. We went on late.
If you don't marathon prepare for that, you're doomed from the start.
I think it was a 1 to 3 set or something.
I did Miami a couple weeks ago, and it was like that. It's just we went to dinner. Our dinner reservation was 11 p.m.
Did you go to Moxie's?
Oh, a couple times. I love Moxie's.
Nice.
I love Moxie's in Miami.
You gonna do it?
Shout out Moxie's.
Yeah, there you go.
It's hard to party. And
welcome to the Blend Podcast.
Yeah.
So we got an EP coming. We got some festivals coming. We're scrapping the old, we can't, the album Who Shall Not Be Talked About, the EP.
Yeah,
it's been scrapped. Just
can you remix them and bring them back and get them to your standard?
We might be able to. But it doesn't. We'll see.
I don't know if we want to.
Yeah.
Those songs in particular went through so many revisions. It's kind of like, how many ways can you skin a cat? I don't actually know the answer. I've never skinned a cat.
That's good. That's good. Glad to hear that.
It's a phrase, people.
I've never heard that phrase in my life. Yeah.
Brad's heard it. Look at him over there.
I know.
Yeah, see?
Brad does skin cats. That's the weird thing.
It's a way of life. It's not saying.
It's wildly terrifying.
Are we doing podcasts next year? Are we doing Blend podcasts?
We have got a couple DJ sets that actually need to be posted.
Yeah.
So there's yes. The answer is yes.
Okay. All right,
that's
good.
YouTube. I just winked at you.
You're going to drop them on YouTube?
Yeah.
All right.
Where can those be found?
I'm sure if you look right over here, you'll see a tag.
I think it's actually down here.
If it's right over here, or in this area,
right up here.
Yeah.
Here.
I'm just gonna put it right over Elliott's face in particular.
Mike's gonna move it and actually follow our fingers in editing, in post.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that. That's gonna be so much fun.
You do all.
I do enjoy that kind of stuff.
You do it all. You really do.
The amount of trust that you give Mike with the final director's cut of every piece of content.
Do you give him that trust?
I begrudgingly, yes.
Who does have the final say?
He's earned it.
It depends on what. On the video stuff, Mike is the video guy.
Do you guys both have veto power?
Yeah, for sure.
It's never been formalized as such, but yeah, I would say so. Yeah. There's no constitution of the band, but
is there a 51-49 vote, or is
we both have different strengths?
Yeah.
For sure. Elliott is hands down a brilliantly strong writer. I'm an okay writer.
Elliott said that earlier about you. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't
say that at all.
No, Elliott, hands down when it comes to writing the songs is definitely the stronger writer. I'm the production guy. That's just what I get really into. So polishing stuff is where it's what our balance is a lot of the time.
True.
I mean, there's a lot of phases where we're both doing both parts, but there's definitely different things that and then the ad stuff, when I'm editing a video, but Elliott's figuring out how to get it to perform online. So we just have different strengths.
If you want to go far, go together.
All right. That makes sense.
That. Yeah, with a compass.
I think, and Brad, if you can, we've both brought up Rocket League, right? Obviously, it's not something you guys want to dwell on, but let's talk about
it's a great game.
So I brought this thing.
Let's talk about the concept of Rocket League, right? So I'm more curious on not so much about the Rocket League thing, but you guys obviously avoid the talking about it in some degree, right? It's just the elephant in the room on everything. How do you when someone says Rocket League, what is? Because you're both there's some. I don't know,
the right response to that is always thank you. We're glad you enjoy it, and that's great. But
what's the true feelings behind it?
I would say that no musician wants to be associated singularly with something that isn't theirs.
Yeah, I mean the harsh truth of it is that
we want to grow past that.
That was a rocket ship for our career, and it exploded in popularity from that. And only recently have things become even remotely as popular as those original songs. Which is
they're still our top 5.
Is fantastic. This is what people hope for, but it's a little bit
it's frustrating.
How was your high school prom? Was it really transformative and changed your life? And you're well, it was great, but it's just now I'm married, to someone else.
Right.
It's just a long time later. We're yeah, that's great. I there's no resentment or ill will about it, but it's just firmly the past.
Rocket League was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the songs are 9 years old.
So the sync deal that you might have for a different thing, is that a positive? And because it can boost your career, but it might be associated with it. When you just said, think of a song that you love from a movie that you love, and I still love that song. I still love My Heart Will Go On. It's because I think about Titanic.
I guess it's definitely a positive. And I guess from just the mentality of like you're asking like what the 2025 plans are, and then like what's Rocket League, like they're just very decoupled in my mind, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, 9 years ago is it's a long time, and you don't want to define you. I'm always just curious what because I mean, obviously Rocket League was the big boost, right? But you guys don't love talking about it, so I'm always curious. Like,
I think it's the singer that was in the band at that time is no longer in the band. Like we don't write music that way anymore. We like those songs aren't like the creative direction that we're taking the band anymore. So it's just it's weird because it's something like Elliott said, everyone wants, but you don't realize the devil's advocate side of it of like, what if that's the only thing you get? Like, is that the one-hit wonder situation? Because that's what you're ultimately fighting. It's like, we've achieved success. How do you do it again, but without that thing?
I agree with that. I also think it's partly just, I've never been looking for like hits, like, or just being like, I want to continually to build slowly. I think that's the way to have longevity in this game, right? Is you have a strategy that you can execute against, and you can point to, I'm doing this and that's moving the needle. Things like Rocket League or anything, right? Like let's say you go sign a crazy record deal or something, right? Now your future is out of your hands, and you can't actually see what you're doing move the needle. And that is what's challenging, I think, about that. Because it's really just like winning the lottery, we could have been in a different video game that didn't get successful. And it becomes like, all right, well, if I'm trying to build a sustainable, repeatable business, what is working, what is not? And if you just get into a video game that happens to be the biggest video game in 2016, like it kind of blows everything out of the water. You're like, oh, my really targeted marketing campaign with an ad spend of $1,000 versus Rocket League. You're like, okay, well, that's kind of like my hesitation with it, because there was a long period of time where we had no idea what to do next, because, no matter what we did, it was working, because you're just attached to a big successful property.
A thing that's working.
Right.
Yeah. That's putting more out ears listening to your music constantly, but it's hard to compete with. Well, and you're not competing with it. It's your own music, but you're trying to
learn how to get
put
that
out
on your own.
Additional.
That's always been my thought process there.
Was there concern of another sync deal doing that same thing a second time around?
Well, that was the goal.
That's the goal. Yeah.
So that's the irony. Is like it is what you want.
You keep coming back. Music's an abusive relationship.
It's just the long tail there is both a positive and a negative, because you want your listeners in a modern day listening environment, people like with playlisting and how radios, like how Spotify radio works, where people like a song and they add it to their playlist. You're going to get so much plays out of like getting that algorithmic hit. But most people don't know the artists that they follow. Like that is a different kind of like fandom entirely. Like when you can have a whole album and like people are stoked about the next album, that is few and far between. Like, we can say the John Summits of the world or like the Billie Eilishes, but like the vast majority of artists is like when they get a song that hits, they just get a song that hits and people don't even remember their name. That's the challenge, is we're kind of dealing with that because of the success of our previous songs. Is like, it's almost impossible to beat that kind of placement, that kind of success.
Which is okay. Like none of this is really just a bad thing. It's just, it's the reason why when you're like, let's talk about Rocket League. I'm like, okay. Like I'm not particularly excited about it. It's not a bad thing either. It's just.
Would you change anything about how it all went down?
No.
Keep it exactly the same.
I mean, it's tough to argue like a counterfactual like that. What happened was great, and I'm very thankful for it. It really helped and elevated our career. And I definitely wish we had learned some things that we learned faster, which I guess, I don't know how that would happen without going through the experience, like, and that was great.
It's always a weird question. Someone says, will you change that? So I know that's a weird question to ask, because you look back and you're like, well, there was great things about it and there was tough things about it. But
dude, I would have just been 2 inches taller through that whole experience, and that would have changed the game.
I feel like when
you all are the tallest DJs
as being
around,
1 inch shorter than Elliott, I would have hated that.
As perfectionist
as you, 2 more inches, oh my god!
As the tall perfectionists you guys are, I can imagine that even the things that were tough, or like leaving the Rocket League era, you learned a ton about it.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing is, perfectionist like you guys are, I would consider myself the same. Brad, the same. Like, you look back and you're like, well, yeah, well, I mean, Brad just kind of whatever. But
Brad is pretty cool, dude.
Well, you look back and you're like, wow, that was really tough. And you're like, well, but I learned, like, got my teeth kicked in, but man, I learned 3 or 4 things, so it was worth it. And that's like part of what makes us strive for the next and always want the best. Like, are you guys? Is the sync deal, like, is that the next move? Is that a 2025 goal?
Like, just getting sync deals in general. I mean, like, it's when Elliott talks about like career longevity, artists that are able to repeat the concept of getting sync deals, like just getting placed and get a Pepsi commercial, like the deal itself will pay a ton of money. And then on top of that, like that kind of product placement, like being associated with something like that does boost music like quite a lot, quite substantially. So getting a lot of sync, if you're able to be successful in that, is without a doubt a goal. But like, it is often very tangential to writing music that people consume individually.
Well, and you know a lot about sync deals. You negotiated them from the other side. How do artists go about, doing that? Are they finding a label, an agent? Are they being pitched? Is it going through a platform? All of the above?
Not a label, typically. Most labels don't do sync. They can be part of it because they own the master rights. But typically, like, a publisher's supposed to do that, but most modern publishers don't do that either.
Mm-hmm.
Largely, it's just footwork. It's like going out there and finding things that
just pitching.
You can get your music license.
I feel like that's the secret to all these questions at the end of the day, right?
Hustle,
like, how do you do something?
There's no short.
Hustle. Yeah.
No shortcut.
If you really want it, you'll find a way.
You just got to get in there with the lathe and just bring it to Del Mar.
Yeah, the secret to that is first prize at the fair in 2003. It's the key to sync deals right there.
Well, we learned it all, didn't we?
Had some laughs along the way,
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this has been cool. It's been fun to sit down with you guys. I mean, obviously, I consider you guys 2 of my best friends. Like, it's super cool to sit down and have the opportunity to ask, like, the follow-up question, the next question of, like the Rocket Leaf thing, like about what 2025 brings, like just getting to know you guys a little bit better on that level and specifically focused on the musical part of what you guys do. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I learned a ton. Super impressed with you guys. Always have been since seeing the first things you guys put out, and miss living together.
Should we get the house back together?
Get the house back together.
Get the house back together.
Let's run it back one more time.
Yeah.
Make some more music.
Take those keys, throw them out, and just find a house that's fallen into a ravine again.
I think we get the same house.
And to think you could have chosen the other guy that was there for callback.
Sure, you wouldn't have met any of us.
How different would your life have been?
Yeah, that's crazy.
What podcast would you be doing right now if you didn't choose Brad?
Dude, I'd be like a crypto bro, being like, "Oh, you got to invest in Solana." Just super hard left turn. No, man, I hit my macros every day.
Well, I love it. I'm glad to call you guys friends. This was great to do this and kick it off.
It's fun.
And so, spoiler alert to everybody at home, we actually did this a different time 6 months ago, and this is a way better podcast production and interview style and everything. So,
yes, thanks to Mike on that. That's all Mike. We did.
No, and you guys too, and Mike as well.
Honestly, it was almost like a year ago. Yeah. It was like on Zoom.
It was the very first test for different paths. Altogether.
I felt like I didn't want to ask any of the same questions, but that one was super deep.
I don't think that one will ever get aired.
That one was really good. All the beans were spilled.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah, so many secrets. We'll just never hear them.
We can't forget to thank the Template for our slightly different area of where we're sitting now. We're on the stage at the Template in OB. Thank you for hosting us and having us.
What's interesting is we're filming a whole bunch of these. So like the order of where this one comes out, where you're like slightly different. This could be like the third in a row up here.
Well, it
slightly different. Everyone's like, looks the same to me.
Well, we're back in the same spot we always are, the Template in OB.
I'll edit that based upon.
Depends on which one it is.
What we release.
So thank you, Template OB.
Yeah.
Thanks, Template. Thanks, Hollywood Principal.
Let's go.
That's a wrap.